Our next order of business is good and welfare. Any member of the public wishing to be heard at this time can please come forward and state their names for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person.
Thank you.
Doug, someone on Zoom?
I'm bringing in Adam Weissman.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm here. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. On October 17th, I plan to attend the council meeting to object to the removal of our beautiful street trees on Cedar Lane. When I arrived at Town Hall, I was stunned to find dueling protests on an issue far removed from municipal Teaneck matters. Police told me that the meeting was at capacity, so I couldn't enter. When the protest finally ended, I was told that I still could not get in. I went home and was finally able to join on Zoom. Hours passed. Finally, the council announced that they were closing good and welfare, with 21 people still waiting to speak. It was frustrating. On the day Teaneck was to pass its Arbor Day resolution, I was told that my attempt to play Lorax would have to wait. Instead of preserving the council meeting as a space for discussing local issues, a council member chose to bring a resolution that needlessly divided our community. I was disgusted to hear council members cynically compare the call to acknowledge the pain of our Arab and Muslim neighbors to the racist All Lives Matter slogan. Coming days before the commemoration of our Black Lives Matter mural, this was a slap in the face not only to Arabs and Muslims, but also to Black residents. Unlike the Muslim and Jewish students at Teaneck High School who organized a forum to promote dialogue and healing, Councilmember Goldberg saw an open wound and thought, needs more salt. After the meeting, she went on the Blue Teaneck Facebook group and claimed that protesters were chanting from the river to the sea and gas the Jews. Unlike Councilmember Goldberg, I was stuck outside and had ample opportunity to hear all of the chants. People did chant from the river to the sea. I looked into this chant and found 2 articles from Jewish magazines, one called From the River to the Sea Doesn't Mean What You Think It Means, in Forward, and another called What Does From the River to the Sea Really Mean? That was in Jewish Currents. And they clarify that the implication that this slogan calls for the extermination of Jews is a racist and Islamophobic myth. As for the vile and inexcusable Gas the Jews chant, I heard no one shout such filth. What I did hear was Arab and Muslims approaching Haredi Jews who joined their protest to say shalom and to thank them for their support. Finding it hard to believe a council member would lie so audaciously, I watched Councilmember Kaplan's nearly 2-hour-long Facebook Live video of the protest and my own Facebook Live video to see if our phones picked up something that my ears didn't. The only chant that sounded remotely like gas the Jews was shame on you. So if Councilmember Goldberg has some other video where someone shouted gas the Jews, I'd like to hear her make it public. If she can't, she should retract this horrible accusation, apologize to our Arab and Muslim community members, and resign from the council for speaking this irresponsible falsehood. As a fellow Jew, I must ask her to consider the ethics of her actions. Our great sage Hillel asked us to summarize Judaism to a man as he stood on one foot, said, "What is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor." Given Jews' own history as targets of violence inspired by the anti-Semitic blood libel, Councilmember Goldberg should know the danger of violating the 9th commandment and bearing false witness against her neighbors. To hear that such a message was shouted in our community makes Jews feel less safe and ultimately endangers Arabs and Muslims. A month ago, a 6-year-old boy was killed in Illinois by a landlord inflamed by Islamophobic rhetoric. Do we want this kind of horror to bring this kind of horror to Teaneck?
Thank you, sir. Someone on this side, Cheryl Hall.
Good evening, esteemed council members and everyone in the audience and also watching on TV. That's a hard one to go after, but everyone deserves their few minutes of time to express their views.
This is Umar Sharif. I live on Bell Avenue. And lastly, I just wanted to mention that I completely agree with the prior caller on Zoom, Adam Weissman, what he said with regards to the Israel-Palestine resolution. Thank you.
Sharuk Awudallah, your hand is up. You are declining to be a panelist. Please feel free to speak if you'd like.
Good evening.
Please
Good
state
evening,
your name
council.
for the record.
My name is Sharuk Awudallah, Teaneck resident. I was hoping you could provide some insights into the process of selecting advisory members. Also, I initially didn't plan to address this, but the previous speaker raised a valid point. Will Councilwoman Goldberg be issuing an apology for her inflammatory remarks against Palestinian residents? If not, may we inquire about a potential timeline for her resignation? Thank you.
Thank you. The lady right there, Miss, I think I saw your hand up. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Reem Fakhri.
I'm a resident of Teaneck for the past 25 years. I'm a parent of 2 high school seniors and 2 graduates of Teaneck Public Schools. I'm here firstly because I'd like to voice my concern for the safety of our Muslim students in the school system. I initially spoke up in support of our superintendent's neutral letter, which promised to assist all of our students and to make sure that they're all safe. Unfortunately, as the days go by, I see that this support isn't coming, or it's not enough. What I am seeing is that they're being silenced in the face of their grief. I see that they're told to be aware in a manner that's almost threatening by teachers, deans, and even substitutes. They don't feel comfortable enough to go to the counselors that are entrusted to their care while they're in the schools. It's disheartening to me to see that my children are reliving my past of prejudice and hate that I saw through the 80s when I was told that Teaneck has such a wonderful history of diversity and desegregation. I expected better when I chose Teaneck to raise my children. I lived in South Jersey all my life. My parents came here in 1968. They chose New Jersey to raise their children. And I left my home in Monroe Township and moved here to Teaneck because of its diversity. I expected better, and I know that we can do better because I've seen better in Teaneck. But I'd also like to speak for a moment, if I could, about what happened on that evening when we were outside while you were meeting inside. We chanted. I chanted too. I didn't intend to. I intended to be inside to speak because I wanted Teaneck to remain for Teaneck, for our children that I raised here, just as my parents raised me in Monroe, to be Jersey girls. Jersey girl, I have 1 daughter, and Jersey boys, I have 4 sons. I was hurt when I heard Councilwoman Goldberg present a resolution that would set us on a path of division. We were chanting the word Gaza the way you say it, but we say Gaza, which can very easily through walls be heard gas them. We didn't say gas them. I would never allow my children to say gas them. That's horrific. That's horrifying. We would never want to hurt anybody anyway. I was there that day because I wanted to ensure, as I said, that Teaneck remains the town that I know, the one that I chose to raise my children in. And I hope that we can return to that. I do hope that we get an apology.
Thank you, ma'am.
So just want to remind you that yesterday, November 20th, was World Children's Day to promote awareness among children worldwide and improving children's welfare. Sadly, in Gaza, 5,500 children have been killed, 9,000 children have been maimed by airstrikes, while most of them are currently being denied access to most basic humanitarian aid, including food, water, and medicine. 17,000 children are lost one or both parents. The enormity of the impact on children in such a short time is significant and alarming. Some of the impacted children are direct relatives of New Jersey families, and I would like to extend deepest condolences on World Children's Day to all the families who lost the children in this last month. Third item, Teaneck International Film Festival recognized 2 Teaneck High School students, Rhoda Albertovich and Leora Pelovin, for building bridges across the community, creating a forum for tough conversations, and leading with compassion and empathy during difficult times, especially after Teaneck Council's actions on resolutions passed regarding conflict in Middle East. These students demonstrated exceptional leadership, and I would like to see the council recognize these students for responding to local discourse with great deal of sensitivity and maturity.
Thank you, Ms. Arjumand. Mr. El Karyani?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, earlier your tech vendor asked you a question. When was the last time you failed at something when you were all in? The answer is every night since October 17, 2023. Over 13,000 Palestinian civilians dead later, you still have not properly recognized them. I don't know any Muslim in Teaneck who does not agree that you as a council have treated Muslims as second-class residents of Teaneck compared to their Jewish counterparts. Now, notwithstanding any efforts you've made offline, any visits or meetings you've had with mosque leaders, all the events that Deputy Mayor cast, which I will continue to support and advocate for, allow me to remind you that what matters is what happens in this room, in these meetings, through your votes and decisions. And if you believe that your offline activities or the Kumbaya resolution you passed last month, or appointing 2 Muslims to advisory boards, will serve as a means to let the dust settle, take this respectfully. You're hallucinating. The page is not going to be turned unless you offer in your official documents a remedy and healing to the Muslim community of Teaneck by exclusively mourning the Palestinian civilian deaths. Once you give us that proper closure, I will encourage you, like I did last time, to pass an ordinance that will halt the introduction of all these nonsensical resolutions about international conflict. I encourage you to do what is right immediately and as soon as possible, because once they reach a ceasefire over there, 5 of you will have to prove that you value Muslim lives. And it will be tough to undo the current perception. And like the famous Eddie Murphy line goes, what have you done for me lately? And lately, as a council, 2 of you indicated that they value and care about Muslim lives, but none of you has shown that Muslim lives are worth political risk. Everybody's grabbing a calculator and doing the math. If you disagree, introduce a resolution that exclusively mourns Palestinian civilian deaths, and let's see who's going to vote against it. I don't want to believe that you, and you don't think that all lives are equal in rights. As individuals, I've known several of you, most of you I respect, some of you I really, really admire. But I hope that I am not wishfully thinking. I think for the past month, you've been an invertebrate council, and I encourage you to get a backbone and offer the Muslim community some proper closure.
Yassine.
And I hope I'm not wishfully thinking.
Thank you, Yassine. Thank you, Ms. Baker.
Keith, please unmute. Keith, please unmute. State your name for the record.
Keith Kaplan, Teaneck, New Jersey.
Whenever you're ready.
So, it amazes me that so many of our Muslim cousins that spoke tonight, not a single one mentioned the hostages that are being held. And I mention that because not only is it covering the news, will they be released, won't they? And not that anyone has to, but the people that broke the ceasefire that existed on October 6th, and there was a ceasefire on October 6th, they screamed Allahu Akbar as they stole children, elderly and babies. If they did that in my name, if they did that in my religion, I'd be livid. I'd be screaming at the people who did this. You think Judaism does this? It would not be acceptable. I have not heard one person demand that those children be returned. What do we hear instead? We heard an imam from your own mosque spreading libels that Israel bombed a hospital. I still have not heard it retracted. The US, Israel, half the developed world knew that that was a lie when he said it. Today, we know even more. The New York Times itself says it's a lie. You expect council to recognize one more resolution until they ban all resolutions? I mean, are you nuts? I seriously have to ask. Someone gets up and says the river to the sea does not mean genocide, as if like now it needs a decoder ring. We know what this stuff means. No one needed a decoder ring to figure out you will not replace us when they marched in the South with pitchforks and torches? Where is the humanity? Where is the religion of peace that I have sat in your mosque and discussed with you? Where are my neighbors calling for the return of babies? Yes, every death is a tragedy, but not every means of dying is equal. This council called for a resolution on a crime against humanity when someone intends for someone else to die merely because of who they are. If you cannot register that someone dying as collateral to war is different, I don't know what to tell you. It doesn't mean you feel it less. It doesn't mean the mother is hurt. It doesn't any less. It doesn't mean anyone cares less. But my God, what are you learning about Holocaust studies? What are you learning about slavery? Not everything is the same because someone dies.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. The gentleman in the back.
My name is Yigal Gross, and I have been a resident of Teaneck for the past 8 years. I want to first thank the council for its prior resolution supporting Israel and condemning Hamas. It was appropriate, it was courageous. You honored our community by passing it. I also want to commend the council for its peace and unity resolution, not kumbaya. Peace and unity is something we all should want and support, and I hope that Teaneck gets it. But we need to be honest. Peace and unity is not what Teaneck has today, and I would submit that we cannot let our hopes obscure reality. And at this juncture, permit me to respectfully but candidly address my Muslim neighbors. You had an extraordinary opportunity. If ever there was a time to extend your hand and show grace, this was it. This should have been easy. The intentional, targeted killing of over 1,000 innocent people at the hands, the largest single slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust, at the hands of an internationally recognized terrorist group who, lest anyone doubt their depravity, televised themselves in the act, going house to house, murdering people so brutally that even now, weeks later, they still can't identify all of the bodies, kidnapping mothers, babies, innocent faces that have no place on a hostage sign. Where were you when a madman killed 51 innocent Muslims in a mosque on the other side of the world in Christchurch, New Zealand? We Jews were there. We came to your mosques. We sat beside you. We comforted you. We knew you were hurting, that you were scared. But when it was our turn to grieve, you were absent. We needed you, and you were not there. Actually, you were not absent. You were present. You're present now, but in all the wrong ways. When our council sought to bring comfort to our community, you came to protest. You sought to downplay the intentional butchering of civilians as complicated. You asked for balance. You offered rambling history lessons full of inaccuracies, like debunked claims that Israel bombed a hospital. You falsely equated the unintentional killing of Palestinians with the intentional targeted killing of Israeli babies. You criticized the council's condemnation of Hamas, an organization which uses Palestinians, their fellow Muslims, as human shields, as anti-Palestinian and anti-Muslim. You accused the council of causing communal disharmony, of being divisive, while busing in dozens of protesters from Patterson who would shatter that harmony. In Englewood, they launched a full-scale riot. But at least they didn't say gas them. Thank God for that. This is all self-destructive, and I say this with a heavy heart. This is a tragedy. It's a communal failing of epic proportions. You had the opportunity of a lifetime to demonstrate compassion, to show the world that the forces of light can overpower the darkness, that there are voices within your community that can work together with us to build a better future. I hope those voices surface and that we have brighter days ahead.
Thank you, sir. Doug,
Can you please state your name for the record once more, sir? I apologize.
Miss? Oh, sorry, her, the young lady behind.
Hello, good evening. My name is Layla Graham. I was born right across the street, raised here in Teaneck, and still reside here with my family. I am one of the people who protested outside the council chambers on the 17th of October after this township's elected council voted on a shamefully biased resolution. This town's This town's attempt at a peace and unity resolution after inciting conflict and outrage in the Teaneck community is truly outrageous. There is a reason why the Muslims in this town are usually quiet on the issue of Palestine. There is vehement intolerance in Teaneck for any pro-Palestinian sentiment. I have been witness and victim to atrocious anti-Muslim and anti-Palestinian hate in the last few decades. My home has been vandalized and attacked for displaying a Palestinian flag in solidarity and support of the indigenous peoples of Palestine, with inaction from Teaneck police and this town's government. Teaneck is not the utopia of peace and diversity it claims to be. I have been banned from online public forums on Facebook groups for challenging anti-Palestinian sentiments. I have been accosted while shopping on Cedar Lane. I have been called an outsider by anti-Palestinian residents of this town who take one look at me and assume where I come from and where I belong. I don't want to deter from the dialogue on Palestine and the genocide happening there, because the atrocities happening there are what I'm here to highlight. The resolution that was passed on the 17th of October not only sought to minimize the 75-year occupation and ethnic cleansing perpetuated by the state of Israel that led to the formation of Hamas, but also failed to state the facts as they are. The following resolution, passed on the 30th of October, was laughably insufficient in emphasizing the catastrophic impacts of dehumanizing an entire group of people. Currently, as of today, and I wrote this statement weeks ago, it was 9,000 people who were dead. Now there are 19,000 people who are dead in Gaza. Massacred mercilessly, inflicted upon the most densely populated open-air prison in the world. It is more befitting to call Gaza a concentration camp or a reservation. As the state of Israel continues to carpet bomb the city of 2.3 million, killing hundreds of innocent civilians per day, targeting schools, hospitals, mosques, churches, it is incredibly insensitive, distasteful, and inexcusable that elected members of this council found it befitting to pass a resolution that was so blatantly apathetic to the genocide happening to the Palestinian people. I'm actually quite disgusted with the farce of unity and diversity in this town. As a Black Arab Muslim woman who has grown up so accustomed to being the subject of hate and contempt in my own hometown, due to anti-Black racism, anti-Muslim, and anti-Palestinian bigotry, I feel true kinship with the indigenous people of Palestine.
Thank you,
This
Ms.
council and your support of a genocidal
Thank you, Ms.
military and regime do not represent me. Free
Thank you,
Palestine.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Doug, someone on Zoom? No? Mr. Berliner?
Thank you. By the way, we agree there is a lack of unity in town. I would like to set a number of things straight. And I just want to say two words: honesty, transparency. You know, Yassine, we don't always see eye to eye, but I appreciate and I see where you come from. And I trust what you say. And I know that it comes from a place of passion.
Paula Rogovan. In my remaining time, I have to say that I am horrified by what's going on in Israel-Palestine situation. And I'm also horrified by what's going on right here in Teaneck. Some of us have signs that say ceasefire now, peace. And two residents have been dropping feces, bags of dog feces, on the lawn. It's on video. It's on video. It's not like we're making it up. The two residents, a man and a woman, have been dropping dog feces next to the signs. Now, there's signs that are pro-Israel around town. I haven't heard of vandalism, and there shouldn't be any vandalism about either of the signs. But this is going on, and a police report has been filed, and so far as we know, nothing has happened. We know that we have the video. The police have the video of the people doing this. We also have pictures of our own former councilman wearing a very hateful yarmulke. I'm Jewish. wearing a hateful yarmulke that says Jews can shoot. We need an ordinance prohibiting hate clothing.
Thank you, Ms. Rogovan. Thank
in
you,
our
Paula.
public buildings. We cannot.
Thank you,
have it.
Paula. We have to
It's
go on to the next
scary
speaker
to
now.
us
Thank you, Paula. We have to go on to the
have
next
this kind of
speaker.
hate going on, open
Paula,
overt hatred
Thank
in
you.
this
We have to get to
town.
the next speaker. Thank you, Paula. Doug, you said you had someone on Zoom?
Rejma Khan, if that is, I hope
Yes.
that's you, okay?
Hey, thank you, Doug. This is Reshma Khan, long-term resident of Teaneck. I'm trying to tune out all of the divisiveness at tonight's council meetings. Some of the most abominable words I have heard at tonight's meeting, including dragging a respectable imam of our mosque, which I know is hate speech. Teaneck Council, as council members, you should immediately stop such hate speech. Haven't we learned anything from the Hindutva radical who attended our council meeting last November? Also, a great congratulatory shout out to Father Joe D'Amico and our own Cheryl Hall for her efforts in bringing the town together. We had a Friendsgiving potluck at St. Anastasia. Several engaged residents were there with sumptuous dishes, both halal and kosher, and every category in between. I thank the many friends and neighbors who attended because it was great to just relax in some casual company of our residents and friends, neighbors who were there. Several Muslim and Jewish friends joined and exchanged beautiful greetings, smiles, friendly conversations. We were celebrating the bar mitzvah of one of our friends' sons, which happened over the weekend. So it was a beautiful occasion. So thank you to everyone who helped organize that, especially Cheryl. I know I love my Jewish neighbors and they love me, regardless of what the council does to divide us, which happened here, right here in Teaneck on October 17th, unfortunately. Yesterday, as you all know, was World Children's Day. There are 2 billion children in the world, including those children who are being held hostage and facing perilous circumstances right now in Gaza, including those 1 million children also who are currently being mutilated in airstrikes or braving amputations without anesthesia. The international theme for 2023 is for every child, every right. Well, that's all fantastic, except here in Teaneck, we don't stand for the 1.1 million Palestinian children, because even when we passed a peace and unity resolution, we could not add or acknowledge the loss of innocent lives in Gaza.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. Ma'am?
My name is Eva Liebman, and I've been a resident of Teaneck for almost 65 years. I moved to Teaneck because I wanted to live in a very diverse community. Black, white, green, blue, purple, and whatever religion there is. I wanted to be part of everyone and everything. I think because we're such a diverse community that the town council has to be careful not to take a political stand on issues that do not involve Teaneck directly. It's wrong because, as you can see, we've offended Jews, we've offended Muslims. So I think in the future, please try to be more neutral. No matter what you feel personally, as a town council, do not take a stand on international issues. It's not advisable because that divides the town. I'm Jewish, but I love my non-Jewish neighbors. I love my Black neighbors, and I love my Muslim neighbors. And I want to be part of that as a totality. But what you're doing is you're separating us, and it's wrong. So please, in the future, do not take a political stand on issues that do not involve Teaneck. No matter what you feel personally, it's your personal beliefs. But for the sake of Teaneck, again, please do not take a stand on political issues that do not affect Teaneck. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Doug? Anyone else in chambers want to speak? Seeing no hands, good and welfare is closed.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank my neighbors for coming out, for sharing. Your comments are extremely important. I also want to thank the residents for coming out for the community forums as it pertains to the master plan. and as well as taking the survey, because it is vitally important that your voices be heard. So what Mrs. Baker said about things not being done like this previously, well, this was a campaign promise for us that things be changed, that we have an opportunity to hear from you who we represent. We represent all of Teaneck, and it's vitally important that we hear from you. So I encourage you to come out to these forums. Don't think that they don't matter, because they do. As we move forward with the master plan, we're taking into account many of the things that are being said. So I encourage you to come out also the December 5th to the FTU meeting on Cedar Lane. And that's not the only meeting on business districts. There are, you know, we go beyond Cedar Lane. I also encourage you to come out for the Affordable Housing Information Workshop, or sharing that information. I think that is vitally important that people understand that the ADU ordinance is still on the front burner. It is important because the fact we just want to get it right. We realize that the planning board really spent a lot of time really looking at this, and quite frankly, the reason why we had to revisit this is because in 2007, when the last master plan was done, there wasn't anything known as an ADU. So we have to address it from the vantage point of ensuring that things be done correctly. Lastly, I want to say I'm really disheartened to hear that our youth are fearful, or any of our residents are fearful. I grew up in an era where, you know what, it's like, that's not something we want for each other. So I would encourage us to figure out a way in which to work things through. I think we can use our youth, and I applaud our young people and the high school. I encourage our youth to lead in times like this, because unfortunately, it seems like the adults are having challenges with human understanding and coming together to address major issues. So it's in our best interest to realize that yes, we are in pain, but we can heal as long as we work together. And lastly, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to all my neighbors, and happy Native American Heritage Day.
Thank you. Ms. Goldberg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I want to say that I would be happy to work with the PPRAB to bring a skateboarding park to Teaneck that would fall under their scope. I want to thank residents for coming out last night to the American Legion Drive meeting. I hope that as we discuss development, whether it be American Legion Drive, Cedar Lane, State Street, and our master plan, we are able to hear from residents about what they do want for Teaneck, whether it be building height, senior housing, green space, or mixed-use development with lottery tickets. Thank you to Cheryl Hall for your beautiful Thanksgiving event. I was very happy to attend. And thank you for making sure that that event was truly beautiful and unifying. Thank you to Bill Orr for your incredibly generous donation to the Friends of the Library, and I encourage everyone to donate to this very important asset. Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. I agree that there are some topics that should be discussed at workshops, and we need more meetings, particularly in the workshop format, to discuss the kind of things like garbage, recycling study, or a website proposal like we did this evening. Mrs. Baker, you have my phone number and are always able to call me and discuss any concerns, and I'm happy to come to your house. I stand by my remarks of what was said by the protesters outside on October 17th, based on the information that was available to me from Teaneck residents, including residents who were in fear walking to their cars that night, as reported by the Washington Post. I know that we have work to do in rebuilding bridges. I voted in favor of the Peace and Unity resolution introduced by Councilwoman Belcher and Deputy Mayor G on October 30th. And I was happy to attend the Thanksgiving event that was organized by Cheryl Hall and start the process of reconciliation. As everyone knows, I'm happy to meet and speak with residents. Councilmember Schwartz and I tried to meet with residents after October 17th, but were stood up. I'm happy to speak with anyone, and I hope that some of the people who spoke this evening will reach out to me directly so that we can arrange to meet in person. I wish everyone in Teaneck a happy Thanksgiving. This Thanksgiving, I personally pray for all hostages taken by the terrorist group Hamas to be free, not just the 50 that are currently being released in exchange for a 4-day ceasefire.
Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. I make a motion to extend the meeting till midnight.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Thank you. Deputy Mayor G.
So just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. It's a time to really think about our families, our friends, our loved ones, our neighbors, and continue to get together. Cheryl, amazing job hosting that Friendsgiving. We were happy to support and continue to look forward to attend events like that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. As always, I'd like to thank all of our residents who came out tonight for participating. And we hear all of you and we acknowledge you.